Hello and welcome back to Blade and Sorcery Mods. I am Illithid and this is where I dive into popular mods, new mods, and mods that I personally think are really cool, and give my thoughts on them. This series is more of a showcase than a review, so I'm not going to get super technical on how they work. I'll be more focused on if they work, and how it affects my personal playing experience. I'm playing the PC version on U12, and all mods in this video can be found on Nexus Mods. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I wish the wounds were more realistic in this game? Well, you're in luck because Realistic Bleeding by Zioniko does exactly that. With this mod, blood will now run from some cutting and piercing wounds, and will also run from your enemy's mouth and nose after they've been stabbed or hit with enough force. It also covers the wounds to make them look more realistic. Blood can also drip and splatter onto the environment and other characters as well. You can adjust the amount and appearance of the blood to your liking, and also where your enemies can bleed from by adjusting a few settings in the in-game mod options. With that being said, I wouldn't recommend putting everything on max. Oh, look at him! Oh, what the fuck? He's dripping blood everywhere too. Oh, it's on me! The textures look great, and what I really like is the bleeding physics. The blood actually runs towards the ground, so if the enemy characters are upside down, the blood runs towards their head, and if they're prone, the blood runs sideways down their body and towards the ground. I was curious if the gravity spell had any effect on the blood physics, and it doesn't look like it does. It's totally unacceptable, 0 out of 5 stars. Nope. I'm just kidding, this is a great mod and I'm gonna keep it installed. The next mod is the one that I think everyone should have. This is the Medieval Megapack by Sushin. From the description, this mod adds over 300 weapons to the game, and allows enemies to spawn with them. I looked through the mod folder, and this pack actually adds a whopping 450 items to the game. At least 90% of that is weapons, and the remaining are various types of ammo, tools, and food. Everything in this pack is organized into 23 new categories, and each category has the MMP logo so you can easily find them in the book. With so many weapons and weapon types added, you can literally spend hours going through each one and experimenting with different combat tactics.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Something that I like to do for fun is design a loadout with a class in mind. For example, I might be playing a pirate, so I'll equip myself with a flintlock pistol, or a blunderbuss along with a cutlass. Or maybe I'll play something like the monk class from D&D and equip a quarterstaff with some throwing stars. There are a lot of possibilities. So how do these weapons perform? Overall, I say they feel great. The grippable area on all of the weapons I've played with so far are really intuitive. This gives combat options like half swording and improves methods such as striking with the butt end of the weapon or grabbing your enemy's weapon to control it, assuming your enemy is holding an MMP weapon, that is. However, I find that it's more difficult to dismember with some of these weapons compared to the default in-game ones. Maybe the edge alignment is stricter with these or something, I'm not 100% sure, but what I am sure of is that there was a major lack of dismemberments while recording all of this footage. So this is just me talking about the melee weapons so far. There are a handful of range weapons that consist of single-shot firearms, bows, throwable weapons, and a dart blowgun. I've only ran into 3 issues so far. One happens when I equip the bow quiver to my left hip slot. It works normally until I press the trigger and try to unequip it, then it becomes completely unresponsive. Like, the game still recognizes that it's there, but it won't let me draw arrows from it or do anything really. This issue seems to happen with just the left hip slot. Everything worked as intended when I put the quiver on my right hip slot. The second issue has to do with reloading the crossbow. You can only load the bolt if you're holding on to the crossbow trigger. The bolt just won't snap into place if you're gripping it by the stock or the foregrip. And the third issue actually started happening as I was finishing up recording footage for this video. The clay bomb bag is just stuck on my hip slot. Unlike the issue with the quiver, I can still interact with it, pulling bombs out or putting bombs in, but it just won't let me toggle the focus to the bag when I press the trigger, so it's just molded to me, permanently. As far as textures go, everything looks fantastic. It seems like the author spent a lot of time texturing each item. Across all 450 items, there are so many different looks to the metals, the woods, and other materials on the weapons. I've been using this mod since U9. In fact, this is the very first mod that I ever installed. The author has always been good about keeping it updated and improving it with every update. If you don't have it installed already, this is one that I would highly recommend getting. Like, actually go start the download now. It's nearly half a gig, so by the time you finish watching this video, it'll be ready to be installed. Blade and Sorcery introduced an item breaking mechanic in U12. It's currently only being applied to items like crates, vases, buckets, and other things that you find laying around the maps. Breakable Staff, created by VCR and uploaded by Chaotic Fish 01, takes that mechanic and applies it to a weapon. It performs just like a normal staff would, except it breaks into 3 pieces after enough usage.
A few moments later.
And the neat thing is that the pointy ends of the broken staff pieces can actually impale your enemies. This is a great proof of concept, and I'd love to see a weapon pack that has breakable weapons. I think it would absolutely add some excitement to survival mode by forcing you to change weapons from time to time, and it can put you in some challenging situations in the dungeons. Can you imagine having breakable armor too? While the concept of breakable weapons is awesome, there are a few things that I think would need to be fleshed out. For example, the biggest thing for me is the weapon handling. Let's take a closer look at the staff. Notice that you can actually see the 3 pieces attached together. Because of that, you can't seemingly slide your grip from end to end on it, and more importantly, the weapon handling feels uncooperative if you try to use it one-handed. I'm not sure if that's by design or if that's just the result of holding an item that's made of 3 items stuck together. Regardless, I'm eager to see what modders can do with this concept. Kamehameha V3 by John Forez adds a spell to the game that lets you do the Kamehameha wave from Dragon Ball. This mod is heavily based on the endgame lightning spell. In fact, it essentially is the same thing behind the animations. The mod's description says that it also forces your character's hands together and lets you shape it in a V to activate the beam. But the thing is, you can do the same thing with the regular lightning spell. The only difference that I noticed was the brief moment that it sticks your hands together and vibrates. If you have the Kamehameha spell equipped, you're still able to do all of the regular lightning spell attacks, like shocking your enemies, shock enemies that you're grabbing, and imbue weapons with lightning. I played around with it for a while, and honestly, I can't find a reason to have this mod in its current state. In its current state, it's just the lightning spell with some animation changes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that spell mods shouldn't be based on an existing spell, but I'd like to at least see it look more like what it's supposed to resemble and have some additional features or some uniqueness that distinguishes it. And that wraps up all the mods for this episode. The link for all of them are in the description. Thank you everyone for watching. There's a mod that I'm really excited to showcase in the next episode. I don't want to reveal too much now, so be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it, and future episodes as they come out. See you next time.